Hi everyone and welcome to episode 10 of the Ask the Coach show. I am Jeff Plum and we've got Alois Rosario with me. Welcome Alois.
Morning, Jeff. How are you going?
I'm going well, thank you. Ready for another big show. We've got some great questions again today. We've been getting some really interesting ones lately. And so the first question we've got has been asked by Alina and has been asked on our Google Plus page where you can ask questions before the show. Now, Alina said, normally players follow one style, so they're either attack or defense. But if Alina wants to become an all-round player and she's an attacking, when should she start to learn the defensive strokes? Should she wait until she's really proficient at the attacking style, or should she learn them all at the same time?
Yeah, so Alina, I think try to learn them all at the same time. When you're learning your basics, you're going to learn to play some counter hitting and some top spin and some pushing. So that's a good time to start to think about learning some defensive strokes as well. If you can learn all of those basics, it gives you a good ability and touch on the ball as well. So I think learn them all at the same time and you'll find you'll have a nice rounded game right from the start.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, Alice. And I think the other important thing to note is that the top players in the world who we say are attacking players are actually incredibly good at that defensive style, at the blocking and the pushing and the returning. And sometimes it's all those important things that allow them to attack. So the short pushing and the good tight serving. And so they really do have an all-round game, even though they tend to attack a lot more.
Yes, they certainly do have just that touch and that ability to put the ball on the table. And that just comes from the amount of hitting that they're doing. And also the amount of balls. So they've done a lot of pushing. They've done a lot of chopping. They don't go out necessarily and practice chopping for hours, but they will practice chopping sometimes. They'll develop that stroke. Sometimes when they're start of training, they might go out and do a little bit of chopping. So yeah, they do. They just develop that overall touch and ability by playing a lot of table tennis too.
Great. So, Alina, yeah, get out there and learn all the strokes, learn the blocking and the pushing and work on those as well as your attacking strokes, and you'll develop a nice all-round game. Now, our next question comes from Friendy. And Friendy says, I realise that in table tennis we use only one part of our hand, the upper arm, lower arm and wrist. So what is the time to use each part of it, and can I combine them?
Yep, so Friendy, so table tennis, it isn't just about your wrist and hand and forearm and all that sort of thing. Table tennis is a game that you play with your whole body, basically. So it starts with the bat, perhaps, or the fingers, but remember, when you're playing, you also utilize your trunk rotation, utilize your legs, utilize a whole lot of different things. So if you start to worry too much about the little parts, you're going to really start to get yourself tied up with too much detail. Have a look at the stroke as a whole. That's why in PingSkills we try to show you the basic simple stroke that you can learn. How to play a forehand, your starting and your finishing position. If you start to worry about where your wrist is or where your forearm is at any given time, you're going to get so tied up with detail that you're going to forget about hitting the ball. So let's keep it simple. Let's simplify things and think about playing the stroke and starting to get that looking right.
Okay, good luck with that, Friendy. Hopefully you can develop your forehand. Now, Len Buffy has another question for us, and he says, how do I play against a player who simply sends every shot back? I feel like I'm playing against a brick wall, and I start to think that I have to do something to end the rally, and then I make the mistake and I lose the point. What can I do?
Yeah, so we've all played against those really good defensive players that can get the ball back on the table all the time. They can get really annoying, can't they? But if you let them slip into their rhythm of being able to go back and chop the ball back and allow them to sit back away from the table, then it becomes a lot easier for them. So your basic thing is to think about trying to bring them in closer to the table to start with, and when they're close, then make your attacking stroke. So that's often really early in the rally. So if you can make a service and third ball, so on the serve it short, drag them in, and then play a stronger ball at them, that's going to make it a little bit harder for them. Rhythm and timing is the thing that they do really well. Getting back, getting a lot of balls back on the table. So you need to break that up, drag them in, push them away with the strong shots.
Okay, so you don't necessarily just have to go out and try and attack everything and, go overboard and make a mistake. It's really about that variation and breaking up their rhythm.
Yes, yeah, but be a little bit more proactive with your attack. So don't allow them to make the first 2 or 3 pushes, because after that the attack becomes a little bit harder for you as well, because they're into a really good rhythm. So I'd say even if you do make a few mistakes, I think just breaking up that rhythm keeps them guessing as well. So yeah, I'd err on the side of being a little bit more aggressive than a little bit too passive.
Okay, excellent. We'll give that a try, Len, and see if you can get through that brick wall. Good luck. Okay, we've just had a question answered from an audience member, from Trevor, which is great. And Trevor says, what advice can you give to changing the momentum in a match? I was recently up 2-love in a match and lost all confidence after losing the 3rd set, and I continued to go downhill, losing in 5.
Yes, yeah. So Trev, it's something that does happen, and often it's a mental thing. So firstly, think about tactically what's changed. So if you've lost the 3rd set, maybe it's because they've come out and done something different tactically. Maybe they've changed the momentum. Maybe they've just found something a little bit different. So firstly, it's trying to examine that. Secondly, when you're in a 2-love lead, sometimes you get a little bit too complacent, perhaps. So you start to think, well, I'm just going to win this 3rd game and forget about focusing on each point. Or you might start to see the finish line rather than focusing on the here and now. So if you start to get too far ahead of yourself, drag yourself back, think, okay, this is how I need to win this point. If something has changed tactically, then you need to start to rethink, okay, he's now digging the ball more to my backhand side. How am I going to get him to play the ball more to my forehand? How am I going to get him to stop digging that ball into my backhand? How do we stop those that momentum swinging back to their side? So a couple of things there. So firstly, think about tactically what they have changed, and then secondly, think tactically about what you need to do for this very next point to win this point. Because remember, it's the winning of the points that leads you to winning the game and the match. The match just doesn't happen by itself. So there's a couple of ideas for you, Trev.
Yeah, good point, Alois. I mean, I think, that concentrating on the current point is good. I kind of personally, I feel like sometimes you can just feel like that momentum's going against you, and you almost need to reset in a way and like go back to how you felt at the start of the match, which is not easy to do, but sometimes you need something that just kind of breaks that, and it's either a thought process and maybe thinking about the tactics, like you said, or thinking about the current point can really help with that. But great question, Trevor.
Yeah, the other thing that you can also utilise now is the timeout. So either utilise that minute in between games, or utilise that timeout that you have in most situations to just stop that momentum. So take your time in between or for your timeout, and sometimes that is enough to break the momentum. The other thing that you can utilise as well that we didn't mention is the towel break after each 6 points. So if you start to feel that things are starting to change a little bit and your opponent's getting a bit of a run on, make sure that after 6 points, you go to your towel, you take those few seconds to just break up that rhythm and that momentum as well. And then there is always the tactic that some players use, and their shoelace magically becomes untied when their opponent gets a bit of a run on.
All right. Well, good luck with that, Trevor. Try implementing a few of those things next time you're in that situation, and see if you can end up winning the match and not let things slide away from you. Okay. Now, Gustav has a question for us. He says, is there a difference between a lob and a fish?
A fish swims.
Yes.
A lob doesn't. Is there anything else that we need to cover?
I think that's it. I think that sums it up.
No, what Gustav's actually talking about, a fish is a type of stroke that we talk about. So fishing is when you're back away from the table and you it's sort of a mixture between a lob and a topspin. So it's a low flying topspin that doesn't really get up high, so it doesn't allow your opponent to smash that next ball. So the ball's coming through, at head height or a little bit lower at most to your opponent. So it keeps the ball lower, puts them under a bit more pressure. They really need to make a topspin on that next ball. So that's the real difference, probably just the height of the stroke. So a lob goes up a lot higher. Fishing, it's like a low flying lob basically. So yes, there are.
A fish is going to be harder for your opponent to deal with, but it's also a harder stroke for you to make.
Yes, you really need to be in good position to be able to make that fishing stroke. So if they're playing a really fast smash, basically sometimes all you're doing is just trying to get your bat to it and lob the ball up. So by lobbing the ball, it gives you more time to get into position for the next ball. So by fishing or keeping the ball lower, it also gives you less time to cover the court for the next ball. So yeah, so you just need to weigh that up.
All right, there we go. So anyone want to do any fishing now that they know what that is? Okay, now we've got a PingSkills question which we want you to answer. So just leave your answer in the comments, and we'd love to hear from you. The question is, what is the easiest stroke to learn in table tennis? So we'd love to hear from you. Okay, so what is the easiest stroke to learn in table tennis? Well, that wraps up our show for another day. Thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget as always to visit www.pingskills.com, and we'll see you next time for episode 11. Thanks everyone, and thanks Alois.
Yep, thanks Jeff. I'm back to bed. See ya.
Bye.